Thank you, Dan, and good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me in the virtual event here. Sorry we couldn't get together and eat some rubber chicken face to face. Maybe the next time. Let me just buzz through, high level on what we'll do over the next 50 or so minutes here, as Dan suggested. I'll give you a very high level elevator pitch on exactly what Flexera is, who we are. Establish my credentials as to why you should listen to me for the next 50 minutes. And then we'll break things down into three distinct areas. I'd like to give you my thoughts, all from a technology private equity perspective, as to exactly what's been happening in 2020, but perhaps more interestingly and importantly is, what implications and ramifications does that mean for fiscal year 2021? Private equity definitely has a distinct point of view on that. We'll then shift into just buy and sell side M&A and, how we're looking at that and our experiences in a COVID world where you can't necessarily travel around. And then we'll wrap it up with a work from anywhere hybrid working environment and how we're viewing that. Of course, hit me with any questions that you've got in the chat as I'm going along here, and we can do it along the way, and certainly answer anything that you've got at the end. So I'm glad you're not shy. I encourage and am pleading to get questions from you. So Flexera, we're one of the best kept secrets here in town by and large. We are a global technology company with over 1,200 employees. Our revenue is in excess of $410 million, and our cash EBITDA margin, which all of you as finance professionals should appreciate, is in excess of 50%. So we are a cash generating money machine here, which is why private equity really likes us, if not loves us. And, there's just not that many tech companies that are globally headquartered in the Chicagoland area. We are headquartered in Itasca, Illinois. That was a conscious decision because when we first spun out to private equity back in 2008, one of the very first things that we did was move our headquarters location from Silicon Valley to Itasca. Well, technically Schaumburg, Illinois. We subsequently moved to Itasca. As I said, we're a profitable company, and profit doesn't necessarily translate into running a sweatshop here. For 9 years in a row, our employees in Chicago, through no coercion involved at all, have rated us as a great place to work. So you can have it all. You can have great values and a great company and a great culture and make a lot of money at the same time. It just requires a little bit more effort than just throwing options and cash at people. So we like to consider ourselves a Midwestern company for sure. And, we think that that's a differentiator for many of the talented people in the catchment area, in the Chicagoland area that we're trying to get here. And, this will endear me to very few of you. But, as far as me, I'm a kid that was raised in Green Bay, Wisconsin, a mile from Lambeau Field. I'm an unabashed Packer fan. And for all of you Bear fans, my deepest condolences for the long suffering that you've had to go through. But I've been affiliated with the company for 22 years. Seven of those years have been living overseas on 2 different expat assignments. I started my career out in sales, so I'm a salesman by profession, but have gradually worked up to the president and CEO role here at Flexera. And while I'm an operator, I think you can't help but think like a private equity investment professional if you hang around those folks for as long as we have here. And then just, really at a high level, what does Flexera do? I don't need to get technical. We do highly technical things, but just understand that software is like electricity. Software is exactly like electricity. It powers everything we do here. So just like in your home, electricity is running the computer, your television, the coffee maker, it's fueling your entire home. Well, software is fueling the entire business landscape, irregardless of what industry you're in. And much like electricity, you can't touch it, you can't feel it, you don't have any idea how much electricity your television, your coffee maker, your computer is pulling at any one time. And yet somehow one of the most bureaucratic, monopolistic companies under the face of the earth, Commonwealth Edison, sorry to offend anybody if you're working for them, but is able to give you a bill religiously every 30 days and you don't dispute it at all because they have a software meter outside your home that's established as the single version of truth as to what you're consuming and what you owe. Think of Flexera. This is a gross oversimplification of providing that type of meter, not for electricity, we're in the software business, but for software that would sit within the walls of a Bank of America, General Motors, Procter & Gamble, some of the world's most complicated virtualized entities in the world that spend hundreds of millions or billions of dollars a year on software. And for every percent that we save them, they're able to repurpose that for innovation or to throw it down to the bottom line. So our value proposition is big and strong. Business is good. I wouldn't go so far as to say we're counter-cyclical, but certainly in recessionary times, our value prop remains strong. So, let's just pivot to the first topic, which is 2020. The rocky road that we've all been on and what implications that has for the 2021 budget here. So, like I said, I've been around 22 years. This is my third recession. I was around for the 99.com bubble burst, which was rather painful. Survived back in 2008 and 2009 during the Great Recession. And here we are, a COVID-induced recession that, for the younger millennials, looks like the sky is falling here. And, my words to them is, just calm down. We've been here before. This too shall pass. And once we get through the woods, don't worry, because we'll have another one in another 8 years. It's just the way of the world. And, what we learned in 08 and 09 when we were first with private equity is that when things take a precipitous turn downward, it's best to move early, move as fast as you possibly can, and be as aggressively downward as you possibly can on the expense side of the house. This whole concept of preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. I think with a private equity bent on that, just expect the worst and make sure that you're dumping costs to weather any potential storm. I remember the first board meeting we had back in 08, and we said to the chairman of the board, "Hey, we don't think it can get any worse." He said, "It could get worse. It could always go to zero." So we learned in 08 that you had to move fast. Flexera was no different than I would imagine a lot of the entities that you're working for. When things started to turn downward in February, it wasn't until I think it was mid-March, and we moved hard. In mid-March, we took the hard decision to remove 8% of our headcount. We had weighed the option of giving everybody a salary cut. What my employees hear me say is I'm not a socialist, and why treat everybody the same? We're just going to make the hard decisions. And that doesn't mean I'm uncaring or we're ruthless, by the way. Some of those 108 families and people I still keep in contact with, and it was a painful decision, but we had to remove people because that's 80% of a cost of any technology company. We took away merits. We cut back on the 401k. We shut down Rex. We knuckled down for what we thought was going to be a disaster of a year. Anytime you start to hear about contraction of GDP in excess of 30%, that's not something that you see every 10 years. Let's face it. This was much more than your garden variety recession, or at least that's the way it looked like it was going to be in March. And yeah, true to form. I mean, Q2 was awful. I think everything was paralyzed. We saw a precipitous drop in our top line, but we had tightened up things on the bottom line. And our mantra at that point in time was flat is the new growth as it relates to the bottom line. So we knew that we were going to have pressures on the top line, and we were looking to just get out of 2020 with preserving our EBITDA, cash EBITDA in 2020 as just being flat. And what we also learned in 2008 is no good deed goes unpunished with private equity. So, we kept saying, now you do know in 2021, we're going to have to feather all these costs back, and you're going to have to give us consideration. And just like they did in 2008, the private equity investors, oh yeah, Jim, without a doubt, you're doing the right thing. We're behind you 100%. Great job. Thank you. You're doing all the things that you need to do. And we'll deal with the budget in 2021 when we have to. And we're now at that point in time. And just as the sun goes up every morning and sets at the evening, every board member I had, I said, these COVID takeaways will be feathered back into the budget, and you just can't expect a massive step up in bottom line performance in 2021. And while the negotiations are complete, let me tell you how this thing goes. In every boardroom across America here that's being run by private equity, flat just simply isn't acceptable. All right, they don't do flat. And the challenge that private equity firms have, Flexera included, is that when I roll out of bed on January 1, I'm going to have to grow my top line by 8% just to put merit, just to put 401k, just to go start hiring again and, turn back on the spend spigot. And, all that consideration and all that cheering us from the sidelines, while they haven't completely done a 180, they didn't completely, mislead us. At the end of the day, they're not really sympathetic. And, they look to their management teams to just go figure out a way to, demonstrate why you can't just continue to squeeze the lemon, so to speak, in 2021. Because after our Q2, which was quite painful, we've bounced back. We basically hit our original projections in Q3. We the book's not closed on Q4, but it would appear as though we're going to have a pretty strong Q4 here. Again, there's still a lot of wood to chop, but we think we're going to look up and be able to actually grow our top line. Now, again, one of the things that makes us a great company to work for, one of the reasons why we decided to get rid of, reduce our workforce size back in March, is to put ourselves in a position to pay out a company bonus, which is tied to EBITDA performance for the company. So we think we're in a position to actually go out and pay, 90 to 100% of the company bonus, which in March, I was telling the employees to assume zero. So we're viewing this as a smashing success, but the challenge is moving into 2021 is there will be no look back or big celebrations here. The employees will be rewarded, as they should, for taking it on the chin and getting in that boat with us to get muscle on through 2020. But I think the challenge for us in 2021 is again, we have to put merit back on. We have to put the 401k match. We can't go 2 years in a row. I think employees are rather forgiving and empathetic if you do the right job in explaining why you're doing these things. There's not, I always say, there's not some rich uncle that's looks like the man on Monopoly that's stuffing that money under his mattress. We're doing this to remain relevant. And one of the reasons we've remained relevant over the last quarter century is because we run a profitable business, unlike in Silicon Valley, where, profitability isn't necessarily that all those companies focus on. So we've got to grow 8% just to be flat. And I think what that's going to do is a lot of that expenditure is going to go back into people and employees. And I think that's going to put some pressure on our operating plan. We're going to have less dollars to spend on investments in security and IT and other things. Now, we'll probably we're budgeting for some relief on travel and entertainment. We've got a big benefit on that. We don't think that thing's coming back anytime soon. So, we'll do okay, but I think for anybody that's selling into companies like Flexera, selling into private equity firms, it's just buyer beware, because they're going to be taking care of their employees first. It would be our projection here. And it's just going to be tighter than usual. I think we end up muscling through it in 2021, and 2022 gets back where you're not only taking care of your employees and bringing new talent in and rewarding the existing talent, but you're able to then free up more operating dollars to go into investments. So I'm not an economist, thank God. But we're still putting together a rather pragmatic set of financial plans for next year based on all of those factors. Because again, private equity can be unsympathetic, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It's our job to lead on through that, and we think that it's just going to be really tough entering into 2022. If the health crisis doesn't get any better, maybe we can't do as much as we think, even on the employee side. But that's not the plan here and now, just based on how we're expecting to end the year. So again, please fire away. That's my high level thoughts on a look back on 2020, but more importantly, what do we think the future holds in just a scant 6 weeks here? I'd love to answer any questions that you've got as I then transition into second topic, which is M&A. What I didn't say in the Flexera introduction is we're a consolidation play. So in 2008, we were just over $100 million in revenue. We're now, like I said, in excess of 410. That's both organic and inorganic growth. We've done 13 acquisitions over the last handful of years here. So we're very aggressive on the buy side, and we've been with our current investors, which is TA Associates and Ontario Teachers Pension Plan, now for 3 years. And as you know, that's about the time that they would expect to go and generate their IRR for their LPs. And, I can tell you that I don't think it's a great secret. We're always being approached by other financial firms looking to get in. They really like our profile. They like the fact that the management team is conditioned to, focus on bottom line, and they love the consolidation opportunities. So while I had actually, when I signed up and confirmed this meeting, I thought I was going to have at least one or two specific examples with numbers, no less, to share with you. But, what I do think, first of all, M&A is just taking a little bit longer in a COVID world because they can't fly around. So I can't give you specifics, but I can tell you that the activity level remains high. And in our case, the activity level is higher than it's ever been before. So to state the obvious, the debt markets are frothy. Our ability to lever up responsibly and go out to the markets to raise debt to go and do more M&A is as easy as it's ever been. There was liquidity concerns, certainly back in March and April. We went and tapped out our lines of credit and, just making sure that should there be a liquidity crunch, we were okay. That lasted about 60 days. We got through that, and it was, hey, this is actually a great buying opportunity because there's companies that don't necessarily run as tight of a ship and a focus on profitability as Flexera. We think that this is going to be a buying opportunity. And in some respects, it has been as buyers of other tech companies. Certainly the growth-oriented VC-backed companies that were just burning through cash, we've been calling them since March. We've been expressing our interest. And it's just been really interesting watching their valuation expectations ebb and flow with the markets, but ebb and flow with, how much cash they're burning here. So while expectations continue to remain high, we can sit on the sidelines and be as patient as we want and just watch the oxygen being sucked out of the room as they get into liquidity issues and crises themselves here. So we've been very active. I don't think we'll be in a position to announce anything in 2020, maybe. Like I said, we're close. But what I can tell you is that the activity is high. The markets are robust. And what we found is that due diligence is just as easy, if not easier, than it was pre-COVID. It's just like any business. Just the other day, I did business in 3 continents before I had lunch. I don't have to get on flights anymore and burn the time, let alone the money, to go and meet with other executive teams. You can do this with Zoom or Teams and video conferencing. So we've actually seen an increase in velocity and efficiency in the due diligence process. Q of E can be done by financial firms remotely. You can establish the rapport. I don't think the rapport is as easy to establish. You can't take people out for a steak dinner and have a bottle of wine to really look somebody in the eyeballs and get to know them. But at the end of the day, it can be done. You can have your personality come through and you can demonstrate that you're an honest person and have a business discussion. So we've actually seen an uptick in overall efficiency on our throughput with M&A. What I can't tell you and I can't necessarily share is how does that look on the other side of the M&A transaction. So congratulations, you've got the deal. Now go make it work and integrate it. We think that that's going to be a little more challenging because unlike C-levels and investors who are really just focused on dollars and cents and cash flows and margin, employees care about their career, their livelihood. They care very deeply about their immediate manager. And at any time, in the best of times, they vibrate off the rails, thinking that there's some big Machiavellian plot to fire everybody. It's just the nature of the beast. So we've been anticipating that there'll be an extraordinary amount of vibration, and that unlike pre-COVID times, we're going to have to do things differently here. So what we've done is we've actually talked about delaying actual announcements and bringing in third parties to focus specifically on integration activities. We're bringing in more people. In normal times, you can address an audience of people in a foreign country or in the United States. You can get a sense for what the culture's like, and then you can start to have one-on-one conversations with key people face to face. We think that that's just going to be harder over video. We think that there's going to be a little more friction, a little more effort to establish and earn trust with the employees. And as a result, getting back to the dollars and the cents, we're more focused on retention and retention bonuses and things like that. What are the financial instruments and what are the other instruments that we need to put in place to make sure that we can underwrite the overall deal here? So I think the hard work really starts on integration. That's always true whenever you do something. That's really where the work starts. But doing it over video, we think is going to be a little bit harder. Not impossible, but certainly harder here, and that's really where our focus is.
Hey, Jim,
yeah.
Quick question. When you talk about the due diligence virtually, how important is that because of your industry? How effective is that? I mean, I would imagine if you're a manufacturer, that virtual due diligence is a lot different.
Yeah, for sure. We can look at the product virtually. We have no barriers. Again, 80% of any of the businesses that I buy are people. And the leases are really the only, the capital expenditures are negligible. Even more so nowadays with cloud computing. So really what you end up stepping into is a bunch of facilities. And, nowadays those things are irrelevant. So certainly technology firms have a distinct advantage over somebody that's got to go and actually look at plants and capital goods for sure. We have that luxury. And, that's one of the reasons why our margins are so high in this business. I see Tim. Tim, why don't we've certainly got time. So Tim asked a question on the chat here. You mentioned that you are a Midwest technology company. What does this mean, and how are you different than a Silicon Valley or Austin-based company? It means we think it means there's a very significant difference when you go. Well, let's start with dollars and cents. First of all, it's going to cost us 30 to 40% more in overall compensation to hire somebody in Silicon Valley. Full stop. It's not quite as pronounced in Austin, Texas, where there's a lot of technology firms, but our cost to employ people in Silicon Valley is substantially higher. And while I think Flexera is great, and I hope you think Flexera is great after spending 50 minutes with me, the fact of the matter is that I have to pay 30 to 40% because I'm competing with Facebook and Google and Amazon and Salesforce.com that are headquartered in Silicon Valley. They have sous chefs and sushi bars. I have vending machines that we subsidize, and you still got to pay a quarter to get a bag of Doritos. So it is different, but the advantage that we have is that, if you want to use the small fish in a big pond, big fish in a small pond, we're a globally headquartered company in Chicagoland, and we can get people that place value on that. What we find is that in the Midwest, when our employees come in and from the Valley and they're saying, "Hey, how much equity do I get?" I said, "I don't know. Why don't you spend a decade with us and come ask me again? Because that's the only time you're getting it." The problem with the Valley and a little bit of Austin is that everybody's got 3 degrees of separation from somebody that just fell into $1 million or more based on catching a bolt of lightning in a bottle here. It's less like that in Chicago. So what we attract are people that, the joke is that get up at the crack of dawn and going out milking the cows. I think that for my money, pound for pound, certainly Austin, Texas, and Silicon Valley does not have a monopoly on smart people at all. It's debatable whether or not they work as hard as Midwesterners. This is generalization, right? And it's dangerous to generalize all the time. And I've got employees in Silicon Valley that have been with us for a long time. I love them, but I think that with the Midwestern, you get people that are willing to sign up and take a longer term view. They're not looking for what can I make in 2 years and flip around and go to the next hot startup that's down the street on Marketplace Street or something like that. So I think what that ends up giving you is a culture that's much more long term. I have so many employees that have been with us for a decade or 2 decades. In San Francisco and in the Valley in Austin, Texas, that's just not the case. When you look at overall tenure and attrition and churn, and you compare it to what we've got, and we know this because we've bought companies in the Valley, on average, we just have more tenure. Just on our own books, our employees stay 2.2 more years than a company than even our employees on the West Coast do. So we think it's a more grounded company. We think it's a company that's more focused on the Midwest. We think it's a company that is, less focused on striking it big. Not to say that the employees don't care about equity. They actually invest in the company, and those that have done that have been rewarded handsomely. But it's a psyche and a culture. We still have trouble getting cloud resources. There's we're waiting for these Big Ten universities to amp up some of the cloud capabilities coming out of there. But we just like it. We think it's endearing to most of the people that we're trying to attract. We attract a certain type of employee. We're not for everybody, that's for sure. But we're loud and proud when it comes to being part of Chicago. We're loud and proud about being in the Midwest, and we have choices on where we headquarter and where we hang our shingle, and it's in the Midwest. And it's really no disrespect to the Valley, but it's certainly different because